Hello everyone, this is Ethan Dragon, and welcome back to another episode of Fire Emblem Heroes. So in this episode of the Damage Calc series, we'll be taking a look at effective damage. So similarly to the previous episodes where we've been taking a look at the weapon triangle and how it can give your units a bonus to their attack during combat, effective damage is yet another way of doing so. But it's, well, as the name says, a little more effective. So here we have some units that have weapons that give effective damage, and you can tell by reading the descriptions of the weapons, and it also next to the MT, which is might, range, RNG, and then it also has effectiveness, EFF, and the icon signifying which units this weapon gives effective damage against. And so all archers, all the bows in the game, they have inherent effectiveness against flying foes. And similarly, there's plenty of other weapons in the game that give effective damage against the other movement classes. So like Kagura, for example, has Poison Dagger, which gives her effective damage against infantry foes. And then for armored units, we have units like Hannah, who have effective damage, and last but not least, units like Female Robin, who can equip weapons that give them effectiveness against cavalry foes. So I'm not going to be giving an exhaustive list of all the weapons in the game that give effective damage, because there's plenty of them out there, so it's important to check skill descriptions and such for that. But we also have effective damage against dragon foes, and effective damage against magic foes. So any unit that uses a tome. So even though there's these like 6 different types of effective damage, they all do the same thing. They give the unit a 50% bonus to their attack against the units they're effective against. So if say Lyn were to attack into an archer, or if Lyn, an archer, were to attack into a flyer, she would get an extra 50% bonus to her attack. And an important thing to note is that effective damage is computed separately from the weapon triangle, and it's also computed first. So if we take someone like Hannah here, who maybe could be attacking into a green armor unit, you would compute the effective damage bonus first, the 50% bonus to attack, and then you would compute the weapon triangle advantage bonus of 20% after that. And that will be more clear when we get to the part of the series where we're actually doing calculations, but I figured I would mention that here because it is a mechanic that not too many people are quite familiar with. But there's also some other ways in the game to get effective damage. One of the more recent notable ones is Naga. She comes with a C skill called Divine Fang here, and so she can give effective damage to adjacent allies, kind of like a how you would use like Hone Attack, for example, to give your units a field buff of 4 attack. So as you can see, this Winter Cecilia and Cronia have this little dragon icon with a green check symbol, and that's just the status indicating that they have effective damage against dragons. And so if we go back here, we can show this out. So if I bring in this team that has some of the different movement classes and whatnot, if we hover or tap our unit and like drag them around, you can see that you can see some red exclamation points.
Yes. Good.
And that indicates that those units have effective damage against this unit. So Nagi is a green armored dragon, so she has a weakness to Hannah here and a weakness to Tiki.
Let us depart.
You also see there's a check mark, green check mark that hovers over Tiki, and that shows that
Yes.
Nagi here has effective damage against dragons, aka Tiki, being one of them. Gunther here, same kind of deal. She's a tome unit. She's a green tome cavalry unit, so these two units here have effective damage against her. Nino, kind of the same deal, but she's also infantry. And Air, of course, is a flyer, so Lynn, being an archer, has effective damage against her. So that's another kind of way to tell, even if you're not familiar with skills, that's a good way to tell if your unit has effective damage against specific targets, or if enemy units have effective damage against some of your units. And I unfortunately do not have Naga myself, so I can't showcase this, but the effective damage bonus only applies once. So if we say use Naga on Hannah here, she would also get dragon effectiveness. So against Nagi, you might think she gets 250% bonuses to her attack from having two different types of effective damage, but in this game, it only counts once. So even though Hannah would have armor slaying and dragon slaying, she has effective damage against armored foes and dragon foes. She would still only get a 50% bonus to her attack from the effective damage bonus. So that's something else to keep in mind. But of course, there's a kind of similar to what we were talking about in the weapon triangle. There's some ways to deal with effective damage. And so if I go to, no, not there, this team, here I have some, but not all, of the different ways to counter effective damage. So we have here Camus, however you want to pronounce his name. He comes with this skill called Granny Shield, and it says neutralizes effective against cavalry bonuses. So you can see that even though we're hovering over him and dragging him around, you see that Robin, who has effective damage against cavalry foes, doesn't have that red exclamation point when you hover. That's because this skill neutralizes that bonus. And similarly for flyers, we have Iote Shield, and for armored units, Svalin Shield. So those are the three main shield skills right now in the game that can neutralize effective damage. And then there's units like Sothis who have stuff built into their weapon. So for Sothis, she neutralizes the effective against dragons bonus. So Adult Tiki here, who normally has effective damage against dragon foes, doesn't in the case of Sothis. And then of course we have female Grima here, female Robin, however you want to call her. She has her own special skill called Dragon Skin, which neutralizes effective against flying bonuses. So kind of the same deal as Iote Shield, but it's built into her A skill in this case. So those are some ways. Again, it's not an exhaustive list of all the different skills in the game that neutralize effective damage. But to close out the video here, we're just going to have a super short showcase just showing that effective damage is not everything. Again, like the weapon triangle, it does not necessarily dictate who wins the matchup, but you know, if you combine effective damage with weapon triangle advantage, it definitely becomes a lot harder for units to overcome their weaknesses. So here we have Kagero here, who have 44 attack against Nino here. So we're just going to bait Kagero here. And as you'll see, even though that Kagero has a 50% bonus to her attack, it's still not enough attack to defeat Nino. And it turns out that Nino is just going to straight up beat Kagero in this matchup. So again, just to showcase that effective damage is not always a determiner of who wins matchups, but you can see for the different matchups how things work. But anyways, in the next episode, we're going to be taking a look at some nuances of skills that affect the way a unit's attack is calculated, or how a unit's defense or res is used to compute damage. So things like Mystic Boost or Raffle Staff and whatnot. We'll be covering that in the next episode. So until then, thanks for watching. As always, this is Ether Dragon, and hope to see you all next time. Bye.